हाय।
हाय।
2 दिन पहले मैंने भाभी जी को मार्केट में देखा, किसी आदमी के साथ।
That you told yourself that you're going to take a break. Actually, 2 years is not even a break, it's a sabbatical. And you decided to reset your acting goals. Now, I was speaking to Anil Kapoor recently, and he told me that there was one point in his career when he wanted to take a break, or a sabbatical as it were, and your father, Amitabh Bachchan, is the person who he approached. I think they're working in a film together. And he immediately told him, never ever do that. Keep working. You had the same man in your house. Did he not give you the same advice?
Firstly, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and thank you. Oh. That feels good.
See, you shouldn't have taken that self-imposed hiatus.
You know, Mayank, when I decided that I needed to take this sabbatical, I was very convinced that this is what I needed to do for myself, for my career. And the decision had been made. I mean, obviously, normal table conversation, I did tell my family that this is what I was planning to do. And my father, he did respond with a similar, I mean, I don't think he was as emphatic as he would have been with Anil. But he said, look, you know, I did this and it's the biggest mistake I made in my career. Right. And are you sure you want to do this? And I mean, it's your call, but he gave me his opinion. I think times were different when he did it. In 1992, if I'm not mistaken, when my father finished shooting Khuda Gawah, he decided for various reasons that he wanted to...
Which was a great film, by the way.
It was, yes. Yeah. That he wanted to take a break. And after 5-6 years, he was kind of coerced into coming back. In those days, when he came back, he felt he had lost touch with what the audience wanted. Also, in that interim period, there was an entire new generation that had come into watching movies, but more importantly, there was an entire new generation that was making movies. The likes of Suraj Barjatia and Aditya Chopra had come in and left their stamp and changed Indian cinema and how the audiences wanted to view cinema, what kind of heroes they wanted. Suddenly from the angry young man, it became the romantic NRI hero. So when my dad came back, he felt that, oh my God, I'm still doing the kind of films that I was doing in the late 80s, early 90s, and that wasn't working. That was why he felt it was a mistake. He felt he lost touch. I was very aware of this, because obviously having, you know, lived through that phase with him. But when I decided, I think times have changed, there's a lot more information, you're a lot more accessible. And plus, I wasn't planning to, you know, go off into the mountains and just vegetate for like 2 years. I was very sure of how I wanted to execute this plan of mine. In fact, taking the break and stopping making films was actually the first step of the plan. It was the first step of the execution of the plan. This is something I've been thinking of for the last 4 or 5 years. All my friends are from the film industry. The people I socialize with on a normal basis are from, in some way, the film industry or the media. So I think, and today you have social media as well, and I think it's very easy to keep abreast of what's going on, what kind of films are being made. So I wasn't really removing myself from this world. So I was very sure of that I'm not going to lose touch. But more importantly, it was a very personal decision where I felt I just needed to recalibrate how I was working. It wasn't the kind of work I was doing, it's how I was doing the work. And I was very confident in the kind of actor I hoped to come back as. I had more confidence in that actor than I did in the doubt of, oh my God, am I going to lose touch? You know, out of sight, out of mind. You know, are you going to be left behind? All these kind of things. So I was more confident on the person that I aimed to become. And I think that's the difference between my dad's time and my time.
Right. I mean, one of the words to describe a summit, perhaps if we were to translate in Hindi, would be a manthan, right? Self-introspection. And that's precisely what you did. What was the conclusion from that self-introspection? Not that you went to the Himalayas, you were obviously working, you were doing various things at the same time. But what is it that you learned because you took a step back to be able to see a larger picture?
It kind of just emanated from a place where I just felt I'd become very complacent in my professional attitude. It's a bit of an irony, you know, we spend, I'm sure in most fields, but in cinema you work hard to attain a certain level of material comfort as well. I mean, let's all be honest with ourselves, you know, that is a big part of our lives. And once you attain that comfort, then you just start coasting along with it. What happened with me professionally is I was in a phase where I was making some very successful films. I was getting paid some very good money. I had no pressure to deliver a hit because that was on a fellow actor of mine. I was in a very comfortable, happy space. I was working with some of my dearest friends, having a great time making
You mean
movies.
Happy New Year, Houseful 3?
Yeah, all these kind of films, you know. And what happens is once it works, then you do another one because you know it works. Then you do the third one saying, this is really easy. Life isn't meant to be easy, especially films. Filmmaking is definitely not meant to be easy. As a creative person, as an actor, especially today, it's very important to be uncomfortable. It's very important to be challenged on a daily basis. When you know, can sleep peacefully and wake up and say, yeah, I can do this with my eyes shut and I can just coast along, it's a great space to be in. I'm not going to, you know, lie to you. But what happens is I realize that if I carry on like this, what I'm bringing to the table in terms of a film or a project is going to keep depleting film by film. Because I'm not contributing anything. I'm just there, I'm having a blast.
Getting paid well.
I'm getting paid well, and the films are becoming, you know, 200, 300 crore films. But if I'm going to stop contributing to my project, in 2-3 films' times, my producers are going to say, hey, why do I need him? I'll take somebody else. So you become disposable. I wanted to stop before I reached that stage. I said, no, you need to stop. You need to take a step back and just recalibrate, like I say, re-energize, come back with a lot more focus, and come back with a plan. You know what had happened with me, Mayank, and I've known you for so many years, and I mean, I'm sure there are people here who have met, I mean, Jyoti's here. Jyoti's known me since I was a kid. You know, people don't believe it, but even though I'm born and brought up in this film industry, and this film industry is my life, it genuinely is. Making movies is something that I am most passionate about. I love the film industry. I love making films. I love watching films. It's my world. Now what happens is, when I got the opportunity to become an actor, and I say I got the opportunity because another thing people don't believe is...
Right, I was going to ask you that question at some point.
It wasn't easy comings for me in that sense. You know, everybody would have thought being Mr. Bachchan's son, there was a line of producers.
No, so did you make that shit up, that you actually went for 2 years from one producer director's office to the other? Because everyone in Bombay should have a struggle story. You are Amitabh Bachchan's son, and it takes you 2 years to make a debut. I refuse to believe it.
There's my life story for you. They refuse to believe my truth as well, yeah. No, the only difference is I did not entirely go to all the producers' office. Sometimes they came to my father's. It was a bit of both. I was at that point working for my father's company as a production boy and as an assistant director. And that's when I was trying to get a job as an actor. And shockingly, which should have been a reality check for me, which I obviously didn't let it impact me as much as it should have, was most of them, and all the ones that said no to me, said it saying, no, we don't want the responsibility of launching Amitabh Bachchan's son. Because they realized what that would take. And then suddenly, you know, one day, as a blessing, in walked Mr. J.P. Datta, and he had just made Border, and he offered me a film, and I jumped at the opportunity because you know, I mean, obviously it's J.P. Datta, why would you not want to work with him? But what happened after that is, it's just, you're like a kid in a candy store. I was just happy as an actor to have a job, to go out there and make movies, and guess what? I was enjoying it. Maybe some of the results I wasn't enjoying, but by and large, the process was wonderful. So I never really laid down and say, hey, what do I want out of my career? What do I want to achieve? How do I want to go about achieving it? I was just happy being an actor, getting a job and getting to make movies.
And getting your next film and your next.
Absolutely.
Right.
So I needed to rethink that. So these are the kind of things that I did.
So you constantly say this, Abhishek, that this version of you that we see is version 2.0. Is it version 4.0? Is it a thing that you start thinking about, even from mortality point of view, legacy point of view, when you're like 40 plus, I'm like, boss, can't continue like this forever. Could age have a factor, be a factor in this?
I'm sure it could. It wasn't for me.
Okay.
Who's 40? Me?
No, you're 25.
No, I'm 42. But it's how old you feel, you know. No, age really wasn't a thing.
No?
But I think
Maybe having a child?
maybe time spent being a professional is.
Sure.
You know, after a point you start evaluating your life and you say, hey, you know, what do I stand for? What am I going to be remembered as? And these are important questions. I think for me it was more after the birth of my daughter that I started asking myself these questions.
That you want to leave behind a legacy.
Absolutely.
Enough of Houseful 3s and 4s and 5s.
No, I love that. I can't wait to
sure.
do
But nobody's going to
5.
remember those films. I mean, I'm sure they will.
You just did.
Huh?
You just did.
Well, I didn't have a choice. I was just reading up on what's the last film that he did before Man Marziya, which I think people will remember.
Well, thank you. That's the intention.
Right.
It's like I said, it's not, it wasn't the kind of films I was doing. If you ask me today, you might not agree with it because I know your personal choice, but I'd do another Houseful. I'd love to do another Happy New Year. I'd readily do a Bol Bachchan. I grew up watching Manmohan Desai and Prakash Mehra. They're my favorite filmmakers. I'd love to do the kind of stuff. And these are films that, you know, the audiences love. I agree, they're made for a specific kind of an audience. Right. It's a kind of it's a genre of cinema which is leave your brains at home and just come entertain yourself. And there's a huge market for it because if there wasn't, they wouldn't be doing the kind of business that they do. I mean, till date, I walk into places and people come up and say, you know, hey, Nandu Bide, or, you know, we loved you in Houseful. Or they'll come up to you and say, oh, we loved you in Dhoom and Jai Dikshit. So you can't discount that. So I love that kind of cinema. I can't wait to do it again. Coupled with other work that inspires me as well. But like I said, for me, it was more about how I was doing that kind of film. It wasn't like, okay, if you're going to stand there, then you need to make a difference. You need to be able to say something. You need to be able to do something. You need people to turn around and hopefully, you know, come back here and sit in front of you and get you to give as glowing a response to a Houseful that you have, say, for Man Marziya. Thank you, by the way. Yeah.
You're welcome.
So that's part of the goal. You can't just write off stuff and say, oh, Mayank didn't like it, so that's fine.
No, of course
No,
not.
I want you to like it, so I'm going to work hard enough so that...
Did it happen in the early part of your career, especially, Abhishek, when you did certain films and you thought you'd done a great job in those films and perhaps people hadn't watched it and you felt even worse about it? I'll give an example, okay? And of course, you'll come up with far more examples. Like one of my favorite performances of yours is a film called Run, right? And there's this scene where you're in a subway. And so just to let the audience know, there are a bunch of goons and the hero is right there facing the bunch of goons and he turns around and he starts running. So you think, Ari, ek to naya type ka hero hai, he's running. But he's actually running to catch the shutter, to pull it down so no one else runs away and then he whacks the shit out of everyone. I don't know how many people saw that, but that was a fantastic performance.
That was the reason I did the film.
Right. Oh, was that the scene?
Yeah. So, Run was a Tamil film which Maddie had acted in. And Maddie, Madhavan is a dear friend of mine. And I had agreed to do it because, actually it's a very cool story. Mr. Boni Kapoor wanted to produce the film. And he said, look, come watch this film. I said, okay. So I went to see it in a trial room that we have called Ketnav, which is in Bandra. And I went and sat there. I remember Sridevi ji, the late Sridevi ji was sitting next to me. I'm a huge fan of hers, okay? I used to go hang out on the sets of Khudagawa just to watch her. And she was sitting next to me, and she's always been so lovely to me, and she had always encouraged me, and she had loved this film I'd done called Tera Jadoo Chal Gaya. I think she was the only person who
No, that's not true. That's not true.
But, yeah,
there
thank you.
Yeah.
Were you born? So I was sitting next to her, and I was just, I'm sitting next to Sridevi. I was like, wow. And suddenly, I wasn't even paying attention to the film. But suddenly, when that scene came, for me, that was my ode to my father, actually. Because that scene reminded me of a scene in Diwar.
Right.
And I said, I'm doing this film. And then when I reached the set, I remember that, oh God, I've only remember one scene. I don't even remember what the film was about. But that was the reason I did that film. And that film actually got a great response. That's still one of the films that, you know, on Twitter till date, people still say that they liked it. So a few people saw it. But, you know, every film has its own destiny, I believe. So, yeah.
Are there any others you can remember which, I mean the early part of your career where you felt like you'd given your best, but I don't think the audience came and they should have?
No.
None?
The one truth which us actors very seldom own up to is when you see your film, which you do before the audience does, you know whether it's going to work or not.
Really?
Yeah. You know whether you've given your best, because you know the amount of effort you've put in whilst filming it. So you realize that. It's after that, it's, you know, hope is a very dangerous thing. You just hope it clicks. But you know the truth. I've, very honestly, I've done some 60-odd films now.
Right.
I've been wrong just about one of them. I could sit in the trial and be like, uh-oh, another one bites the dust.
Really?
Yeah. Because of the way I worked in it. Not as an entire,
Sure.
I can't comment on other people's work. But I knew, and I'm one of those people who believes that if your work is that good, the film will work. So I knew each and every
So which was this one that you were wrong about?
Jhoom Barabar Jhoom.
Arey.
Yeah, I loved doing Jhoom Barabar Jhoom. I had such a blast. It was great music. Shahad and I were collaborating after Bunty Aur Bubbly. We had a blast making the film.
That movie you need drugs for.
It was, yeah, no, say no to drugs, man. Yeah. So it was just wonderful. And when I saw the screening of it, all of us were watching it together, and we had a blast watching it. But then when the film didn't end up doing the kind of business I thought it did, it kind of threw me off. But then I realized why it didn't. And
Did you actually go with coins to the screening?
Yes.
You actually throwing them?
When my dad comes on, yeah. Because I'd done that in Bunty Aur Bubbly as well.
Okay.
Shahad and I are big Amitabh Bachchan fans. So in Bunty Aur Bubbly, when his introduction happens, we actually went to Gaiety Galaxy and threw money.
Like, you won't get recognized in Gaiety Galaxy?
Or if you run down the aisle really fast and throw money and run out again,
Really?
you're fine. And then you meet the ticket collector who says, "Mera screen mat phado tum." Okay, sorry. And then yeah. So we did that in Jhoom Barabar Jhoom. He did a song in that. And so we did that, yeah. But that was the one film which didn't do what I expected it to do. It didn't do badly, actually, but not what I expected it to do. That was the only one.
The others you've seen and you know.
Yeah. I think what went wrong with Jhoom Barabar Jhoom is there was a problem in relatability. You said it. You said you wanted to take drugs and watch it. It's because I think the characters were a bit too eccentric and flamboyant. Secondly, also what happens if you compare it to his last film, which was Bunty Aur Bubbly, the best part about Bunty Aur Bubbly. Have you all seen this movie called Bunty Aur Bubbly? Okay.
Yeah, stop being modest. Have you guys seen the movie called
important
Bunty
to
Aur
ask.
Bubbly? It's one of the biggest hits of that year.
Yeah, but they all
Just
look,
in case you're sitting in some other country.
So the relatability of Rakesh and Vimy is that these small town kids who have stars in their eyes and want to make it big, that's, it was aspirational. It was every small town kid's dream to grow up and go to Bombay. That was the big thing. So there's that aspiration, there's that relatability. Right. Now in India, हमारे रिश्तेदार foreign में रहते हैं. It's a big deal. Hounslow में 10 जन एक कमरे में दिन रात, they're stuck somewhere. वो problem नहीं है. How they live? वो तो foreign में है.
Right.
विलायत में रहते हैं. It's a very big thing. So now, when you've already showing a film about people who are living abroad, they're already aspirational. So we want to see the Raichans of K3G. You don't want to know what their normal problems are. एक तो तुम लोग विलायत में रह रहे हो. I don't want to know what your problem is, and I don't care about your problems unless you're showing me an aspirational life. So I think they just disconnected from it. To add to it, the characters were very zany, very out there. So they've just switched off from it. And they're like, this is a trip we don't want to be on.
But I said the drugs part because there's that song where the strobe lights are on.
Yeah.
And in the theater is really, really trippy.
Yeah. Kiss of Love, I think that's called.
Right.
That was Bobby and
Because
Preeti's.
it's like a dark hall. And I don't think I've ever seen that in any film in a theater.
But that's Shahad, Shahad has a very visual sense of cinema. And he can be very eccentric if he wants to. But that was the only film that I went wrong on.
So did Jhoom Barabar Jhoom in that sense start out actually being an India story and then became this? That the two people actually meet.
So when we were doing Bunty Aur Bubbly is when Shahad narrated a film called Sangam Mel, which is what Jhoom Barabar Jhoom became.
Right.
It was the story of two kids who had run away and meet in Nizamuddin station.
Right.
And then make up these stories because they're actually scared and just to make a companion and find out that they're falling in love. So it started as that. But then Adi felt that it was becoming a bit too similar to Bunty Aur Bubbly. And then he recast the film and then he said, and then instead of Rani and me, then became Preeti and myself. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, Rani is the one who suggested to Adi that, why don't you base this in London? Because Shahad had never traveled outside India. So Adi felt that with Shahad's visual sense, he'd shoot that in a very trippy way. But I think that's where we went wrong. We kind of lost the roots of the film.
I think one of the things that people may not know about you, and I only recently learned, is that you have a notebook and you actually watch every film of yours and you review your performance almost like a reviewer would. Is that true?
Yes.
I wish I just asked you to carry your notebook. It would have been fantastic.
No. Terrible handwriting.
Are you terribly self-critical?
Yes.
Yeah?
As you should be.
As you should
Like I said, every actor knows, you know, at the end of the day, they know whether they've done a good job, whether they can do better. Yes, when you do go back and review, like last night I saw Ashu's film, Khele Hum Ji Jaan Se, you start growing as an actor. So I think part of the exercise of when you can look back at your work and find faults, in a sense is reassuring, because that means you're already evolved a bit more than when you were doing the film. And I like to review my films regularly because I make notes as to how I could have improved that performance or what I need to be careful of.
So are you only looking at yourself or are you looking at the film in totality?
In the past couple of years, in totality.
Okay.
Before that, it was just myself.
Right.
I was still, I mean, at the start of my career, when I was still checking off some very basic things, which is why I've always said whenever I've been asked that, I don't think I was prepared when I started becoming an actor. I mean, I see some of my colleagues that they were fully prepared. I was just, oh, I got a job, yay, let's go. I mean, at the start of my career, I was still, is my hairstyle correct? Is my left profile good? Is my right profile good? Very basics of film acting. I was still figuring that stuff out. Now I managed to see it as an entire.
And you also look at every review that's, that's been written around. I don't know, now of course it will be impossible for you to, because there are millions of them, and if you include social media too. And that you actually read what people have said about your performance. Is that true?
Yes.
Each one.
As many as I can.
As many as you can.
Yeah. When I started my career, I used to actually put up, I had a few of yours up there as well, on my bathroom mirror, and I used to highlight the portions that, the critiques had not liked about me personally.
Right.
And it was a kind of visual representation for me that from the first film to the latest film, the highlighted section should reduce. So that was kind of like a thing of self-improvement. So, okay, they didn't like this. Next film, try and implement that to improve upon that. So I used to do that.
Has there ever been a point where a reviewer is sitting right next to you and read a review to your face?
Not that I can remember.
Okay, we're going to do that right now.
Okay. Is it your review?
Yeah.
One of yours, right?
Yes.
This should be fun.
So background, okay, it's obviously a very, very short excerpt, but the one that relates to you. Background score is an indoor concert. Artwork aims at advertising photography alone. Farhan Akhtar's written the full dialogue. His companies produced the picture. Their recent credits include Lagba Chance, Honeymoon Travels Private Limited, Rock On, Karthik Calling Karthik. Which is sad, given no actor in Bollywood believes in the auteur theory more than Abhishek Bachchan does. If you've noticed, practically all his colossal creative failures, let alone their box office response, seem to have been directed by filmmakers most would otherwise trust. Shad Ali's Jhoom Barabar Jhoom, after Bunty or Bubbly, that we just discussed. Ashutosh Gowarikar's Khele Hum Ji Jaan Se, after Jodha Akbar. Rakesh Om Prakash Mehra's Delhi 6, after Rang De Basanti. There's got to be a theory behind the series. Which film is this?
Game.
Game, that's 2011.
The only correction is I actually did Khele Hum Ji Jaan Se after What's Your Rashi? That Ashu had made.
Well, fair enough. But you would still trust him.
Research, Mayank, research.
And this is by Abhinay Deo, right? Who thereafter made Delhi Belly.
He actually
so it's
made
not
Delhi
even
Belly
past
before.
film, but it's even the film after.
Yeah, he actually made it before.
Explain
He
this
had
to me.
shot it before, yeah.
Do you think you've been done in by directors? Or do you trust or have you trusted directors far too much, given their past record?
No, it's got nothing to do with, I've never judged them on their past record. It's just, I'm a complete director's actor.
Okay.
If I have a disagreement about how a director is seeing a particular scene, my approach is, let me try and convince them. If they're not convinced, then I have to wholeheartedly submit to what their vision is, whether I agree in it or not. Yeah, but...
Don't they all? Is that what you're saying?
you know, sometimes it's hard to understand why, you know, stuff. I mean, when I see a movie like Delhi 6, Rakesh was meant to make my first film, actually. We wrote a film together called Samjhauta Express when we both were looking for a job and both frustrated that we weren't getting one. I've known him since then. And I thought Delhi 6 was a wonderful film. Yeah, but I
mean,
don't
that
know.
of course is subjective, good and bad. I mean more in terms of, because there is no way to quantify these things.
Yeah.
I'm presuming box office success is what we can go by.
No, absolutely, and that's the only thing you should go by. I mean, we work in cinema. It's a commercial art.
Exactly.
So let's be very honest. The only barometer is box office. But yeah, I mean, it's sad. But
why do you think Delhi 6 did not reach the same level of audience reception as Rang De Basanti did?
I think today, if I look back, there was no hero in Delhi 6. I think in storytelling, it's very important to have a hero, a protagonist and an antagonist. There were, I think, too many protagonists, so we didn't know who to get behind. I mean, like we were discussing Bunty or Bubbly.
Right.
There's this beautiful scene in Bunty or Bubbly where they're sitting by a brook and suddenly Bubbly starts crying. And Bunty asks her, why are you crying? And she turns around and very innocently says that I'm missing my home. And they go and actually they call their parents. And she calls and speaks to her parents and says, I'm okay. And then she turns to him and says, now your turn. And he says, no, nobody is missing me or thinking of me at home. And you cut to a shot of Bunty's very critical father, which was played by Mr. Raj Babbar, sitting under a contraption that Bunty had invented, a shower, and missing his son. At that point in time, what happens is suddenly your heart goes out to them, and you're like, oh, I want these kids to do well.
Right.
You know, I'm get behind them.
Right.
You emotionally invest in them.
Right.
You root for them. I feel maybe in Delhi 6, there were too many people to root for, so who do you root for? I think that could have gone wrong with Delhi 6.
What about Game? Like Boman Irani as Thai Prime Minister?
Yeah.
What are you saying?
Yeah, it's fine. Why? They have a lot of Indian expats in. What went wrong with Game? I'm just remembering the film.
I guess that's what went wrong.
No. Game went through a lot of casting changes also. And I think we started laying too much emphasis. It was essentially a revenge story. It was the revenge of my character that he was taking for the murder of the love of his life, which was played by Sarah. From that, it became a murder mystery to then, I think we just kind of lost the focus of the film. Had it remained just the story of a lover taking revenge for the murder of his beloved, I think it would have had a lot more focus. Somewhere, I think we kind of diluted the focus. Then there was the character of the, the Interpol agent played by Kangana, then the other characters and how they linked up. So I think somewhere we kind of compromised the soul of the film.
Right. No, the reason why I'm asking these questions, Abhishek, is because there's something that you said which was part of your self-introspection, is about how you've got to be selfish, and while you've been extremely loyal throughout in your career, being selfish is very important because that's how people become successful. Yep. Was it in respect to certain career choices you made? Because a lot of them could have come from the fact that those were your friends, and all your friends are from the film industry.
Yep, absolutely. I think one of the things I learned from the younger generation, I mean like the 15 to 25-year-olds, is there's an immense sense of professionalism and confidence in what they do. It doesn't matter who's standing in front of them. I grew up in a generation, and because maybe I'm from the film industry, there's this whole element of respect, and there's this whole
element, junior,
yeah, all that. They're okay with that, but once the camera comes on, all bets are off. They're going to come at you in front of the camera in the scene and give it their whole. Whereas I know in the past, out of respect, no, okay, you want facing, take facing. Oh, I used to do that kind of stuff. Somewhere as an actor or in any profession, and I mean this in the best possible way, I don't mean this negatively, be selfish. Be selfish for yourself, for your craft, for your own people. In that sense, be selfish because you need to be a bit selfish to be able to give your best. if you're not convinced in your own head that you're not going to be able to give your best, you're not going to give your best there in turn, you're doing injustice to the venture. There's absolutely nothing wrong. I actually felt previously that if I disagreed with somebody, I wouldn't tell them. No, I don't want to be that kind of guy. I don't want to come across as arrogant. I don't want to give people an opportunity to say, oh, you know, he's just flexing his muscles, so to speak. Or on some level, it was uncool to just disagree. That was a big problem.
Or were you overcompensating for being a Bachchan?
I guess so.
Right.
I'm sure, I mean, that was one of the reasons. I never wanted anybody to think that, oh, he's Mr. and Mrs. Bachchan's son, so he's saying this, so we're listening to him, because I never wanted that. I was very conscious of that, from my behavior to everything. I don't think I'd ever compromise my parents and their dignity even today. But today, if I disagreed with something, I've understood how to put my point across in a better way, instead of, for me, it was like, okay, if they're not going to get it, I'm just, yeah, whatever, man, let's just do it. But sometimes, you know, and I learned this from Amir, he told me that disagreement is very important on a film set, because it leads to an even greater outcome. So he says, I have no problem if people disagree with me. I'm willing to discuss it with them, debate it with them, because I am convinced that through that debate, you're going to arrive at a better answer.
That everyone's happy with.
Absolutely.
Right. Because, you know, the point of selfishness, and here I'm going to tap into what I believe is a rather under-tapped aspect of a personality. You're a thinking man, which obviously one would not realize from Household 3, but one does from a lot of your in-depth interviews that I've watched. And you spent 2 years in sport. You pretty much devoted it to your sports company, with kabaddi, with football, of course. Selfishness is really intrinsic to sport. And you said, and you've spoken about how sport is the closest metaphor for life. Because all its ups and downs you can see in those 30 minutes flat, or whatever is the duration for a game. Do you derive a lot from sports people? Do you have like favorite sports people, what they've said?
Yep.
Yeah?
Immensely. I've been a sportsman when I was in school, and then in college. I still play sports, and I really think sports teaches you so much about life. It prepares you for the world out there. If it's a team sport, it teaches you about teamwork. It teaches you about sportsman spirit. More importantly, it teaches you how to fight back as a team. It teaches you how to never give up. If it's a solo sport, same thing's there. So I think there are a lot of wonderful metaphors in life that you can draw with sport as well. And there are wonderful sportsmen out there that I've idolized, and just been so inspired by their journey and how they've gone about achieving what they achieved. And one thing, which is that I really learned from them, is in their mind, they're convinced that they're the best at what they do. And that comes across brash, you know, when you have, like, my first love in sports is basketball, right? I used to be a basketball player, and one of my favorite, anybody play basketball here? Okay, 4 people, 5, okay, no problem. So there's one basketball player that I used to love called Shaquille O'Neal, okay? He started playing for the Orlando Magic, went on to play for the Lakers and the Celtics and Miami, Cleveland. And he you know, he was this monster of a basketball player. And even I followed him from when he was in college, and he was just the next big thing. And goes down till date as one of the greatest basketball players ever. And as growing up as kids, you idolized him. And the first time I saw an interview of his, I was like, oh my God, this guy's really arrogant. Because his first statement was, I'm the greatest. At that point, I'm like, no, that's not cool, man. Just be humble, you know. Today, I realized that he needed to say that to himself to achieve what he achieved. Because if you're not convinced that you're the best person for this job, you're not going to be able to give your best and do your best. So that element of self-belief, bordering on megalomania almost, but it's important to achieve the great things. You know, I don't think any of, you know, the great leaders of past, somewhere in their mind felt that, no, I'm happy over here. I mean, you want to go out there and conquer, you know. When Alexander came and conquered half the world, is because he believed he was destined to do so, and that he could do so. So that confidence is very important. It's just that shift from, you can't be arrogant about it, but you have to have that belief. That's very important. So those kind of things really taught me a lot from sport, and it did help me a lot to just channelize what I needed to do. But, yeah.
Right. So is that the version 2.0 we're talking about?
Part of it, yeah.
Right.
Part of it. I can't wait to do Household 5, though.
No,
Because I
no,
know
not
it's
Houseful.
just really pissing you off.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
I'm going to convert you.
You know what? I actually liked Houseful 3.
But there you go.
I'm saying.
It's a different kinds of cinema.
It's a different
you know?
kind of film, yes.
Yeah, see, we're not promising you,
Absolutely.
you know, Godard or anything like that.
Absolutely.
But come there, be entertained, laugh for 3 hours, go away. And, you know, in our life and times today, which are so demanding and tough, you know, those 3 hours of just going out there and just having unabashed fun is, I think, is good.
Right. Now, I'm going to go back to the director's part, Abhishek, because right before this, we had a session with Rohit Shetty.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things that he mentioned is that, like, for instance, in the case of how Singham got made, Singham got written at 12 o'clock, or got narrated at 12 o'clock to Ajay, finished at 2:30 a.m., and 7 he was on the set, and he was doing it, because that's the level of confidence he reposed on his director. And he says that's the only way you survive for that long. That's how, say, and like say, he's only worked with Shah Rukh Khan outside of, I mean, so far for the movies that are released, and with you, of course. Yes, very much, yeah, very much. 2 films. So does the actor-director combination then become a very, very important element for an actor's career?
Absolutely. But I think that's so in any field. I mean, even in your field, your relationship with your editor is of paramount importance, because the editor has to have a vision for what they want for the newspaper. They need to try to convey that to you, but they also need to be able to balance off what you as a journalist can provide, and they don't want to compromise your vision because there's a unique perspective. So a relationship you might have with your publisher or your editor is similar to an actor and their director, and it's a collaborative exercise, right? Filmmaking. So obviously you've traditionally seen wonderful actor-director combinations survive for a long time. And I think that's very important. I mean, not just actor-director, even actresses and their directors have had some wonderful collaborations. And that's important because there is a level of trust. You also know that this guy's going to take care of me or this lady's going to take care of me. I understand their vision. I know what they're talking about. They don't need to spend extra time to get out the performance that they need because I know instinctively what they want.
Which have been your favorite directors in terms of a combination?
A lot of them. I mean, to start off with JP Saab.
Right.
Because he introduced me to the world of cinema. A lot of my education about acting and cinema was through him. But with him, it was, I mean, I used to just submit. I mean, it was like a holiday for me. I knew JP Saab would just take care of me. And he treats his actors like his children. So JP Saab, of course. You know, I really enjoyed working a lot with Mani, with Ramu. I really enjoyed working a lot with Karan when I did, but that was more on a personal level. Yeah, we did Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna with him. I've really enjoyed working with Anurag, actually. Another director that blew me away was Ashutosh. Ashutosh was possibly the first time I worked with a director who had been an actor. So I learned so much from him about approaching a scene from an acting perspective. So his direction was always from an acting perspective. So I really enjoyed that. But you know, I've learned so much from different directors. You know, like Rakesh has a very unique approach to the way he works. Tarun Mansukhani had a completely different approach. But you know, it's nice when you forge. But for me, I've never managed to work, thankfully, with a director that I just didn't like.
Really?
Yeah.
It's never happened?
Never happened. I mean, I've never been on a film set where, be it a co-star or a director, I'm like, yeah, really not interested in seeing your face today. But just been a professional. I can't work like that. For me, it's very important that everybody's a buddy on set.
Does it really help to belong to the film industry then? For something like that? For instance, there's this episode I was reading about when you were shooting for Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna. And it's an emotional scene. And you were supposed to tell Rani's character that your father is no more. And you had a picture of your father that you were supposed to look at. And then you told her. And you just broke down. And then Karan Johar broke down. And then Ayan Mukherjee broke down. And then Aarti Shetty broke down. The whole set was crying. I mean, that's a scene from a Karan Johar film. I mean, that kind of bonding, I don't think we'll ever get in my job, no way. In my office, nobody's going to cry like that for anything.
I think the function of what you do is slightly different.
We're unemotional people, is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay.
The purpose is different, right? Actually, yeah, this thing did happen. It was a very uncomfortable moment.
Yeah, take us through that moment.
Yeah, there's a scene, Karan Johar and I made a film in 2006 called Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna, in which I played a character called Rishi. And he's married to Maya, and they're childhood friends, and she's not in love with him, but he's in love with her. And it's a beautiful relationship, and they, you know, she has an affair with Shah Rukh, and they divorce and separate. And near the end of the film, there's a beautiful song, which is Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna. It finishes where you see Rani after 2-3 years. She's all alone. She's not with Shah Rukh. And Rishi comes to see her. And he comes to tell her that, and he's meeting after they're divorced, and he says that I just came to tell you that I'm getting married. I found somebody that I really love, and she's very happy for him. And she says, he asks her to be his best man or woman, so to speak. And he says, look, Maya, at the end of the day, I've realized I have no one else. You've been my best friend since I was a child.
Right.
I had one more person, which was my dad, but he passed away. And she's not aware of this. And my father in the film treats Rani like his daughter, because they've been childhood friends. And he takes out a photograph and he says he would have wanted you to have this. And it's a photograph of my father. Actors also, you know, you lock up a lot of emotions, because that's used a lot in your craft.
Right.
And I didn't want to rehearse that scene for some weird reason. I was just at that point thinking, okay, let me just go perform it. And I performed the scene, and I remember he said, yeah, you know, he passed away. And I pulled out this photograph, and that's when the reality actually hits you. And, you know, the lines get blurred. And I just remember thinking to myself that I'm talking about my father passing away, and that photograph was actually of my dad played my father's character in that. And it just kind of got to me. And I remember we finished the scene, and I just went to the side, and I think the emotion of the scene got the better of me, and I just broke down, and Karan noticed this. And he came and he just hugged me, and he broke down because he was also dealing with the loss of Yash Uncle at that point of time. Yash Uncle had just passed away under a year ago. And Karan had written that scene keeping these emotions in mind. Everybody on that set, from Anil Mehta, the DOP, to Ayan Mukherjee, who was an assistant on the film, Aarti was, everybody knew the emotion of the scene. I think everybody had their own interpretation of that scene. So it just, that happens, that's happened once or twice with me.
Oh yeah? It's happened again?
It happened, yeah, it happened in Marmarji as well.
Really?
Yeah.
What was that?
So it's not an industry thing. I mean, Anurag is not somebody who's born, he's born in Banaras. So, so it's just when, when you're on a film set, there is a bond, a bond between an actor and a director is sacred. Because in a sense, an actor tells the director, look, here's my soul, please take care of it, because I'm very fragile. That's why when we talked about collaborations, they go a long way, because there's that implicit faith. You're literally putting your life in somebody's hands. In a Rohit Shetty film, you truly are putting your life in somebody's hands. So it's that. It's, actors somewhere are very fragile beings, and they tell the director, look, here it is, be nice, take care, don't hurt me, because you have the tools to really take me into a dark place. If you're taking me to that dark place, be that light that'll bring me out. So that happens, and that's, it's very often that when there's an emotional scene, an actor will be on the side preparing, and the unit is very aware of the emotion of the scene, and the unit almost automatically adopts that mood. If it's a comic scene, everybody's having fun, they're fooling around. If it's an emotional scene, you see the set is very quiet, and people are whispering when they don't need to be, but they respect the fact that something very fragile is happening, so let's be nice about that. So that's what happened during, it was
What was the scene? What happened in Marmarzia?
It was actually during a shot that we did of a song called Halla, where Robbie, my character, finally breaks down and starts getting destroyed about the fact that he's caught his wife with Vicky. And he gets drunk, and he just goes to a club and starts dancing.
It's a fabulous scene.
So that was actually one long shot. And Anurag had wanted me to do that on my first day. And I said no. There's also, actors have this thing that there's this one scene that they're always petrified of, and they just keep putting off saying, isko baad mein karte hain, they keep running. This was that one thing, because I knew what it was going to take. It was also the first time that you see Robbie react He's not a reactive
Right.
person. He just
Right.
absorbs.
Yeah.
And Anurag's thing was, just he takes it in, and now it's just
The
too
dam
much.
bursts.
And you have to erupt. So I was running away from it. So this was about halfway through the schedule. We actually did it one night. And he had been just literally chabiing me to do the scene for like 15, 20 days. And that night also my football team was playing the semi-finals and we qualified for the final. So I was really happy. And then we went and did the scene and Anurag had been, so it was a mixture of everything. Right. And again, you just, a lot of times you just lose yourself in what you're doing. You see this very often with dancers, especially people who do a lot of stage performance and dancing. You see that a dancer has just lost themselves in that
Right.
moment. And they just achieve a certain...
It's what dervishes,
yeah,
right?
it's like that, you know. And you just get sucked into that moment. And they had music playing, they were playing the song, and he had built, and we were just doing it, and that scene finished, and he said, I said at the end of it, I'm going to be so tired of just having taken out that aggression that I just want to crumble down, and that's it. He said, yeah, great. And Anurag, in his typical self, never cuts the shot. And now, previously when we used to work on film, you had 4 minutes.
Right.
One can was 4 minutes. Now with the cards, they go on for 10, 15 minutes. And so Halla is about a 3.5, 4 minute song, and the entire thing, and he didn't cut. So throughout, I was just giving it all and just taking it out, and it's almost like a cathartic moment for him. And I just remember collapsing, and Anurag didn't cut it, and the music went off, and everybody just froze. Like I said, everybody's very aware of what's going on. And I just lost the plot after that. I just couldn't control myself. I think, whatever you've just been working up, it just comes out. And on some level for me, it was also cathartic about the last 2 years of what all I'd gone through. Right. Maybe all of that came into, I don't know. And the next thing I just remember is Anurag had just come and he's howling and he was hugging me. And then 2, 3 other people started crying. And then I went to the video monitor to see it, and Kanika, the writer, and all these people there. So it happens quite often, So yeah, it's not an industry thing.
That's not, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But as an actor, Abhishek, you had perhaps the world's greatest in your house. Did he give you advice in terms of how to control your emotions? Because if he had to lose it film after film, we've lost count of the number of films he's done. He was probably doing 4 films at a time, right? Did he give you any advice in terms of holding back, in terms of having a certain control over what could be each character becoming you each time?
Well, firstly, I won't agree with your perhaps. For me, he is the greatest. But I think we've never sat down and had these discussions. Really? For me, it's been more about learning from how he conducted himself. When Dad came home at night, he was Dad. He never brought his work home. The first time I saw my father come home in costume was he was shooting a movie called Insaniyat. And he was shooting right next to the house, and he came home for lunch. And he came dressed as a police inspector. And I was like, wow, cool. And I'm used to...
How old were you?
I was early teens, I think.
Okay.
But that was
you would know that he's
yeah. So I was like, okay, cool. And that was the first time he brought his work home. Otherwise, it was very clear. He never brought work home. We never grew up like the typical, film industry kids. None of these film magazines were allowed in the house. There was this press ban that was going on at that point of time with my father. So there were none of these film fairs and all those kind of magazines, not even trade papers. So we, in a sense, for many years of our lives, didn't even know that this concept of the film industry. It was just normal life. People find it a bit difficult to understand. I enjoy telling this because it just gives you a perspective. People say, what was it like growing up with Amitabh and Jaya Bachchan?
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, it was fine. It was normal. It was mom and dad. When I was a kid, and, just try and put yourself in my shoes. I thought everybody's houses had like 500 people waiting outside.
You mean there are 500 people waiting outside your father's house, but all those people also have 500 people waiting in their house?
No, that's what I thought.
You're looking at
I thought everybody's father, like all my friends in school, all their fathers beat up like 30, 40 people and put them in ambulance and, they jumped off buildings. That was my normal. When you go home, the people that are socially coming home were all part of the film industry.
Right.
So that's your world. that world becomes yours. You know, kids that I went to school with today are all my colleagues, you know, from like Adi, Uday, Ritik, all these, we literally used to carpool to school together. So, you know, your entire world is that. So you don't know, you don't understand why are people treating these people with such reverence. These are my parents' friends and these are my friends and it's fine. Only when you get a bit older and you start understanding, do you realize, oh, okay, I get it now. So, you know, when your world is that, it's very difficult to extricate yourself and then look into it and say, okay, yeah, let's be very normal about it. So that's what my life was.
Sure. How, I mean, not that you have experience of being anything else, but how difficult is it or was it to be Amitabh Bachchan's son when you were not in that world? When you moved out of the world, perhaps when you went to do schooling or when you were in college or when you were among people who were not from the films? How difficult or easy is it to be that?
Well, the best way to answer that question is I don't know anything else.
Exactly.
Right? So it's easy. I mean, this is all I know.
Right.
From when I was born, you know, by the grace of God, I am Mr. and Mrs. Bachchan's son. But that's the only life I know. That's the only way I know how to behave, and that's all I've ever had. So it's normal.
I know you chose acting and as a profession, and I'm presuming, and I'm sure at some level, and of course you can correct me if I'm mistaken, is that that was your choice. That was something that you wanted to do. Let's say if you wanted to be a computer engineer, right? You would be in some Infosys. And it was like, that's Amitabh Bachchan's son. It would be pretty tough to live that life, right? If you were, I mean, yeah,
really
hypothetically speaking.
Okay, I mean,
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess.
I've never, you know, people ask me these kind of questions and I never have a good enough answer. It's a huge bane to my existence. You know, when I keep saying that, why can't I come up with a good answer that, oh, what if you were doing something? How would it? I really don't know.
But you were a fanboy yourself.
Absolutely.
Always.
Absolutely.
Always and all.
Always. But of his screen image. At home, he was dad.
Okay.
And that credit has to go to my mother. You know, she never allowed us to. He was dad. So, you know, that's what he was. But yeah, as film watchers, huge fans. Huge. I mean, I used to love going on his film set and just hanging out there all day with him. And he used to love me coming and hanging with him. It was great. I mean, it's a wonderful childhood to have if this is the profession you want to be in. I mean, can you imagine? I grew up on the film set of Prakash Mehra and Yash Chopra and Manmohan Desai. I mean, you're privileged. It's a blessing, man. How many actors get to do that?
Right.
And it was a wonderful upbringing. You lived in a dream world. I mean, I remember my father made a movie called Namak Halal. I'm not sure how many of you have seen it. And there was a song called Pagga Ghunguru in that, which became very famous. I was there for the shooting of that.
Oh, nice.
And I remember sitting behind the camera and laughing at him trying to chase his Modri down the water. And I'm like, wow, that's funny, you know.
Right.
And why all these dancers dressed up like, you know, Africans and what's going on? But okay, it's funny. I like it. You know, and it's just a wonder world that you're living in. It was beautiful, man. It was just a great, great childhood. What would it have been outside that? I was sent to boarding school when I was 9 years old, and over there, nobody cared who you were.
Right.
I was sent abroad, and over there, I mean, they don't know Indian cinema. So I had a very normal kind of life there as well, and it was fine. It was absolutely fine. I mean, my dad used to come to my basketball matches or to my plays and sit in the audience like a normal parent and enjoy it or not enjoy it. And, you know, he used to participate in that sense. So I had this beautiful balance of both the worlds. But today, if you ask me, oh, if you were working in Infosys, people be saying that. I think they'll say it once, they'll say it twice, and then it's fine.
Very bored of it, right?
Yeah.
But as a personality, you've said this before, Abhishek, that you're actually closer to your mum, and that Amitabh Bachchan is a loner. Is that true? Is he a loner? He's the most public person India has ever known.
Yeah. No, I think he likes time by himself. A lot of actors do. You know, I think it kind of helps you just maybe acquaint yourself with somebody that you actually know the least, which is yourself. You know? So I think every actor likes that time where just let me be. But Dad, by and large, is somebody who's very shy. And he keeps to himself a lot.
He does.
Yeah.
I mean, so the side of him that we see is his public side.
Yeah.
Which is obviously someone who will chat up anyone who comes on his show, KBC.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's really, really good with
Yeah.
people. But deep inside, he's actually a shy person who would rather not.
I don't know if he'd rather not, but I know then he'll finish KBC like he's doing right now, and he'll come home at night and then give me a call and say, I'm back, and he'll call me up to his TV area where he's watching some sport of some sort and sit in silence. I mean, a lot of my childhood I used to be called just to, he likes his family around him, but then he's just quiet. He just wants to, you know, yeah, so he likes to keep to himself. I think he does a lot of thinking also, and as a lot of actors do.
Right.
I think we put on this illusion that we're very social, and a part of us is, because that demonstration is what gives you the confidence to go on a stage and do what you have to do, and that love of the energy that your audience gives back to you. That's a part of us, but I think in order to do that and do true justice to that, you need to have the other end of it as well. You need to have that time by yourself where you can just think.
Right. And to preserve that energy, right? Because you're constantly...
Yeah, it's tough.
Right, right.
I mean, another person I've seen who does that, who I think is just brilliant as a public persona, is Shah Rukh. If you see Shah Rukh at home, he'll be sitting in a corner reading a book. He's immensely shy. You know, so I see that a lot. I see a lot of actors who need that time off. I mean, you could come back from work, you spend time with the family, but then you need that 1-2 hours. You're just by yourself and your thoughts, and you know, just think about what you need to do, how you're doing it, or you know, possibly just observe a certain thing. Or you need that time by yourself.
Right. And you're more like your mom?
Yes. My mom is more extroverted than my father. Okay. So yeah, I would say I'm more, even as an actor, I'd say I'm more like my mom. Yeah.
Right. Questions from the audience?
Abhishek, I have been observing you over the period of years, you know. You have been doing some wonderful films, some good films. But one film was the Guru. And you did tremendous job.
Thank you.
Tremendous job.
Thank you.
And I just don't know, you are cut out for, you have got a personality character, you are cut out for some lovely biopics. So have you ever thought about it? Okay, there could be some other subjects also where you should work upon it.
Are you asking me that for another biopic?
Yeah.
You know, I think, no, I've not really thought specifically like that. But if a film like that came around, which I thought was inspirational, I'd love to do it. I've never been averse to any kind of film. But I've not specifically thought that, oh, here's a biopic and I must do a biopic. The film has to be exciting to do.
Abhishek?
Yes, Jyoti.
Yeah.
I just have 2 questions to you.
Just?
Yes. Number 1 is, were you not
Just so the gentleman asking me a question is Mr. Jyoti Venkatesh. He's one of the most senior journalists we have. I was literally born in front of him, and he's been asking me 2 to 5 questions since I was born. So it's... Yeah.
Since you were born, no.
No, seriously, ask him.
Really?
He was one of the guys when I was a production boy, was there as part of the press junket. He's seen me as a kid. I'm not kidding.
No, as in, like, he didn't go to the maternity ward. It's like, boss.
No, I don't think he was at the maternity ward. I'm pretty sure he was standing outside Breach Candy Hospital, though.
on the major sub-sets?
There, major sub, there. My first film, yeah.
Acha, Abhishek, were you, I just want to get it from the horse's mouth, were you offered...
Jyoti, you've just called me a horse.
Were you offered Paltan by J.P. Datta, or did you say no to the offer when it came to you?
Yes, I was offered Paltan, and I was doing Paltan, and I very sadly had to leave Paltan. And it's a decision which destroyed me. It really upset me having to take that decision. But there were certain circumstances which I could not get out of. And it destroyed me because JP Saab means the world to me. And not to be able to stand by him during this journey was something that really upset me. It was a tough, very difficult, one of the most difficult decisions I had to take in my professional career. And I feel very bad because I feel somewhere I kind of disappointed him and let him down. But I've always wished him all the best. And the thing is, my relationship with JP Saab goes beyond movies. He means far too much to me. My love and respect for him is far too big to let any film come in the way of that. But sadly, I could not be a part of that film. So to answer your first question, I was doing Paltan. What was the second one?
Second one is, several years back when I met Anil Kapoor on the sets of his film, I just casually asked him, Anil, teri beti abhi kabhi heroine banegi? She was just a kid of 8-9 years. And he said, yaar, main abhi hero, let me be chakas, hero for a long time.
Yeah.
Why think of my daughter coming in films? So what is your take on Aradhana getting into films as an actress?
Aradhya,
Aradhya.
she's 6 years old. As far as Aishwarya and I are concerned, be it tomorrow, 20 years down the line, or whenever, whatever she decides, we have decided as parents that we will support her no matter what. Because that's what our parents did for us as well. I still remember when I told my parents I wanted to be an actor, and they were very supportive. I think as a parent, you want the best for your child. As a parent, you want your child to be happy and healthy. That's the most important. What she decides to do is completely her choice. We will never, ever weigh down onto her to say, this is what we expect you to do. She will do whatever she wants to do, and we'll be proud of her regardless of what she becomes.
Hello, Abhishek.
Hi.
Hi. Now, first of all, congratulations on Man Marzia. It's a beautiful film.
Thank you very much.
Now that we have watched the film, I want you to help us understand Robbie. One of the things that stayed with me after the film was the fact that this guy is okay with being someone's backup, a second choice, or a fallback option. I want to understand, how did you crack that psyche?
He's not okay being a backup. Robbie's process is, he's in love with her, and his love for her outweighs any other love. And he's convinced that my love will prove its weightage to Rumi. So he's not happy being a backup. He's okay entering the scenario as an option, that he says. But he's very convinced that I will win her over. These are the slight nuances of Robbie that Anurag and I worked very hard on. That's what made him interesting to me. You know, it made him layered. He was multidimensional. He was aggressive in his own way. He was bullheaded in his own way. But above that, he was just so in love with this lady that he said, I will win her over. And he does. So that's what the approach was.
Do you get that a lot, Abhishek?
What?
In terms of explaining that particular character, in terms of what he intended to do? Have you?
Well, this is the first time
This is the first time?
First
Okay.
time I got the opportunity to speak about it.
Okay, but you've been hearing that?
Yes, I've
Okay.
been hearing that. And I'm glad I'm hearing it, because that means what we attempted to do has kind of translated to the audiences that have seen the film.
Right.
We were very conscious when we were making the film that it's very easy to label Robbie as the boring one, because he's the good guy. And sadly, good guys are labeled as boring. Shockingly, after the film release, which is now just about a week, I've had more men come up to me and say thank you than women. And traditionally, you'd think that, you know, he's designed as the knight in shining armor. He's the good guy, you know. Somewhere women will say, oh, I wish my boyfriend or husband could be like this. But it's actually men that have come and said, thank you, you know. You've given us confidence that...
Because they are like that.
Yeah,
right.
we don't need to be this rebel bad guy and treat people badly and say no all the time. And so actually, I was surprised by that. I mean, I somewhere expected women to react to Robbie, but the way the men have has been an eye-opener for me.
Have you had other characters in the past where people have questioned, like for instance, if you might want to jog your memory, like in Kank, right? A lot of people did not understand what are the problem in that relationship. You seem to be a perfectly fine guy. She seemed to be a perfectly fine girl. You guys seem to be perfectly fine together. What was wrong with you that she had to...
So this is one of the questions I asked Karan.
Okay.
And he said, that's why I'm making the film. I want to show the perfect husband. Rishi is the perfect husband. He's madly in love with Maya. He's a great guy. He's fun. He's successful. He's independent, everything. She just doesn't love him. He says, you know, a lot of times in life, we are in a relationship where you realize that, okay, the formalcy is there, but she's just not in love with him. She's always been like a friend to him. And she didn't have any other choice, so she's like, okay, let's get married. But that was the thing. And I said, but why? He said, there's no why. It's
Right.
just, that's just the
It's
way
complex,
it is.
right?
Yeah, that's just the way it is, which is similar to Man Marzia, where there was a scene which actually got edited, where my mother asks me that, why do you love Rumi? I mean, what do you see in her? And he says, why do I need to see something in her? I just love her. It's an emotion. How can I quantify an emotion? Why do I need to justify an emotion? And why do I need to tell you why I love this girl? You know, which I thought was such a nice message to give, especially today's generation. Why does somebody else get to sit on judgment for what you feel? Nobody else should have that power over you to tell you that the person you love is right or wrong. And I like that. So, you know, in terms of Kank, it was just, sadly, you know, she likes him. She just doesn't love him.
Right, right.
Abhishek, hi, this is Priyanka. Abhishek, just wanted to know your reaction to the controversy around Man Marzia, the 3 scenes that the Sikh community had a problem with. And makers went ahead and requested CBFC to delete those scenes. And apparently, Anurag was also not informed about the decision. So as an actor who's part of the film, how do you react to that?
I think each individual is allowed to react the way they have and they want to. It's their personal opinion. For me, it's not a big deal because, see, what is your film about? My film isn't about anybody smoking. I have no problem cutting that out. If somebody's taken objection to it and they are feeling that the intention of the film or the makers is not to upset anybody, not to upset any community. We're not here to ruffle any feathers. We just want to make a nice love story. That's what the film is about. If by cutting out 1 or 2 shots, it's going to placate somebody and make them feel better, I have no problems doing that. And I say this very sincerely. I really don't have an issue with it. Everybody's allowed to react the way they want. It's a free country. But for me, look, if me cutting out 3 shots, which is not impacting my narrative, makes you happy, by all means. Because my intention isn't to upset you. My intention isn't to start a controversy. And my intention is not to upset you. It's as simple as that. I'm very clear of these things. And that's it. It's been removed and it's fine.
Does it not set a wrong precedent, though? Because if any group is going to have any issue with any scene and that CBFC's past the film.
It depends what the issue is, Mayank. All right? How do I give you a good example? Okay. My view is very different. I'm looking at it as entirety. Ask yourself 2 questions. Why and who is objecting? What is the purpose behind that objection? If that is genuine, then you should look upon it genuinely. Because as somebody who's part of a film, as a filmmaker, you make movies for an audience. So if your audience, even if one member has an issue with something, you need to first ascertain, is that a genuine issue? If it is genuine, you need to address it. I'm making a movie for them, not for myself. And if they have a problem, then I need to understand why. If I'm convinced with that, the next thing you need to ask yourself is, who's the loser here? Who stands to lose? In a situation like we are in right now, I'll tell you who stands to lose. The exhibitor stands to lose. I, as an actor, have done my job. I've been paid. The producer has sold his film to a studio. The studio has there on end sold the film to a distributor who has then sold it to an exhibitor. If there is, for example, an objection or a protest, there's going to be a cinema hall that's going to be vandalized. There are going to be shows of an exhibitor that are going to be cancelled. That person is going to lose money. You want to stand today and say, okay, how can you do this? This is a bad precedent. Please underwrite all the losses that the people down the chain are going to face. I'll stand by you. You have to, that's my industry as well. I've got to think about them. And like I said, what is the issue? You have an objection to 1 or 2 shots. Is that going to change your story? No. Take it out. It's fine. Yes, if it's something that's changing the narrative or the reason why I made that film, then I can sit and debate that and try and counter that.
So you're saying you won't take the same position on Urta Punjab, for instance?
No. I understand why they would want to say what they wanted to say in Urta Punjab. This is just 3 very basic shots. It's not a big deal. Why is that worth more than what my exhibitor, which is part of my family, extended family, is going to have to face losses for? No, it's not. I'm not going to sit on that ego. I feel very strongly about these things. This is my industry as well.
Sure. I mean, we could
like
debate this
the
forever.
first thing you have to ask is, what is the reason why they've taken objection? All right? They've objected to 1 or 2 small shots. If you remove that, it's not going to change your film. It's not. Also, you have to understand that this is an issue that has happened. If it happened before the release, it's something I can understand. We can sit down and debate it and discuss it. This has happened after the release. Get on with it. Your film is not changing. If it's something that's going to change my film, then I have the right as a democratic citizen of this country to debate with you and to reason with you as to why you feel the way you do and I feel the way I do, and it's my job then to convince you. Something as small and trivial as this, I think it's absolutely fine.
Sure. Do you get that a lot? Because that might well be your finest performance. I mean,
Yuva
well,
thank you, but Yuva I turned a corner in my career with Yuva. Yuva was the first film where I actually got positive reviews. So for the first time, it was relieving for me because I just felt, okay, I can do it. You know, the industry.
You cracked it. I mean, it's a fantastic.
Thank you. The industry, the audience, the critiques, they kind of gave me a thumbs up for the first time. So for me, it's always been a very important film in my journey as an actor. So yeah, I mean, it's a film that I really enjoyed doing with a maker that I love, right. Mani Ratnam, and I'm glad because it's been.
Was it hard for you to get it right, like playing a Bihari laborer, as it were?
No, I worked very hard on it.
Okay.
I worked very hard with Anurag on it, actually.
Right.
Anurag wrote the dialogues, and I remember I was shooting for Run in Mumbai and in Chennai. So when I used to shoot in Mumbai, Anurag used to spend days on end in my trailer, and in between shots, I used to rehearse with Anurag about Lallan's walk, the way he'd talk and stuff like that. And then when I was shooting in Chennai for Run, I used to sit with Mani and do it. So we worked very hard on it. So we had really broken down Lallan Singh to the minutest detail, yeah.
Right.
Sir, I want to ask that once you did one song with Aishwarya ma'am, that Kajrare in Bunty and Bubbly. Again, are you planning to work with her or not?
Yeah. Yes.
You will come with her?
I'd love to, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Would you like to see us together?
Yes, sir. I would like to see
Done.
you.
Half the battle already won.
Okay, sir.
Now I just have to convince her.
Okay, sir.
Well, there was a film happening, right? Gulab Jamun.
Yes,
that you guys
that's
were
happening
supposed to
next
do
year,
together.
yeah.
That's happening?
Yes.
Oh, very much. There you go.
हाय अभिषेक अभिषेक ये जानना चाहते हैं कि आराध्या आप 6 साल की हो गई हैं तो आपकी फिल्मों को लेके कैसा इंटरेस्ट जगता है उनमें आपकी और ऐश्वर्या जी की फिल्मों को देख के
वो मैम आजकल कार्टून देखती है 6 साल की है वो कार्टून देखना पसंद करती है
पर आपकी चॉइसेस कुछ चेंज होंगी अब आराध्या जैसे जैसे बड़ी हो रही है
बिल्कुल I will now choose whatever work I do in my professional career based on Aradhya. I would not personally, currently like to make a film that I feel Aradhya would feel awkward watching.
Thank you.
So when you choose a film to work on, what are the factors do you consider to decide on closing the narration?
First and foremost, would I like to watch this film as an audience? I think that's the most important because there in turn, does this film have the ability to be a success at the box office? That should be your first criteria. And if possible, your only criteria. Every other decision and question after that has to be keeping this in mind. So for me, it's would I want to watch this and can this film work at the box office?
So, and do you have a target audience in mind when you go through your filmography or when you go through the possible prospects?
I think that has to change from film to film. When we were doing Man Marziya, I was very clear of the capacity of this film and the kind of people that will watch this film. And then you budget a film accordingly. Zyadatar kya hota hai ki, you know, our films don't fail, our budgets fail our films. Right? So if I had been part of making Man Marziya and convinced Anand Rai and Anurag that let's make a 60 crore film, I mean, the film is already going to fail at the word go. Because that's not the kind of film, that's not the zone of the film, that's not the potential of the film. If I'm doing Happy New Year and I say, let's do it, let's make a small art house kind of film, that's not going to work either. So you have to, you know, decide accordingly. When we did Man Marziya, we were very clear who we're making this film for and the potential of this film. And, you know, thankfully that paid off because today people have enjoyed the film, the producers have made their money and nobody's lost any money and that's great. That's the way it should be. Yes. Yeah, if you see 5 feet to your right, Basuri, my manager, standing there, she'll be happy to help you out.
Disclaimer. What I wanted to ask is...
When did you cut your hair?
Oh, God. It's been a while. It's been a lot of years.
Yes.
Abhishek, at this stage, I don't know whether you have this, but do you want to direct a film? Or
No.
is there a script? No?
No.
Why?
I'm petrified of directing. I have a tough enough time being an actor. You know, I think direction is a completely different discipline. I understand why actors sometimes feel the need and the creative urge to direct. I have never felt that till date. But I'm pretty sure that if I do down the line, I'd want to go learn direction first. It's a completely different discipline to acting. And I don't think just because you're an actor and you spend 30 years on a set that you can become a director. Director is a 360-degree kind of a job, where actor, I can be very focused about what I need to do. There's so many different things you need to pay attention to, whereas an actor, by training, you're currently just worried about what the scene is. So you're focused in that sense. So you have to have tunnel vision as an actor. As a director, your spatial skills need to be a lot better. So, so as of now, I've never felt the need. I mean, if I had to direct a film right now, I'd probably make a terrible film because I don't know the craft of direction. I don't understand the grammar of filmmaking.
Abhishek, I mean, I can't disagree with what you think, but here is the reason I asked is because you're intuitively brought up in this industry, you work with some of the best directors, more than being a cool guy and a very intelligent guy. I'll ask this question in a different context. Supposing you did decide to direct a film, what would it be? Would it be a Bollywood film or would it be something different?
I would probably make the quintessential Hindi masala film. Because that's the kind of movie I love watching more than anything else. I just love Indian films and what they represent. Because I think, I've always said, our Indian films are like our thalis, you know, there's a little bit of everything. And I just love that experience. I love the song and dance. I love the pomp and pageantry of Indian cinema. I love the melodrama. I love the raw emotion. I love the agony and the ecstasy. I just love all of it. So I'd probably, the way I think of cinema is Indian films, the way we make our cinema. So that's the way, I mean, I remember when I was in college as well, and you know, I was studying abroad and you're watching a lot of, you know, different world cinema and all you can think in the middle of, you know, this very intense film is, "Arey, kash idhar gana hota hai yaar, it'll be so much fun," you know. So I think our education in cinema and our grammar of storytelling is musical and is as what Indian cinema is. So that's what comes naturally to us. So if I had to, it would probably be that, yeah.
Thank you, Abhishek. And Halla has been on repeat for the last 3 days.
Oh, it's insane, isn't it?
It's just been on repeat.
Thank you.
Okay, last
Yes,
two
right
questions.
there,
I also
right
want
there.
to preserve your energy because, as I asked you before, you're going to leave us with your favorite dialogue.
No.
Or
ask questions. I like answering questions. Yes, sir. Over there. Check shirt. He's
that
always
should
stood
be a
up.
question.
Suggestions are also welcome.
So what would you advise to be from zero to hero something? Aisa.
My
And-
advice?
Yeah.
Bro, you're asking the wrong person, man.
And
Yeah.
and how do you face criticism if you get any?
How do you face criticism?
Yeah.
You stick your chin out, say, give me your best shot, and then try not to get knocked down and carry on. That's the way to do it. Learn from your mistakes. Criticism is very important. For me, it has been. It's important to be criticized because that's how you're going to grow. It's important to take criticism. It's important to understand criticism, but more importantly, you have to act upon criticism. Try and change somebody's point of view, especially if you're a filmmaker, because if your audience feels in a particular way and a film critic or anybody who's criticizing your work is also your audience, your job is to make each and every one in your movie theater happy about coming in there, buying a ticket and watching your film. So anybody who has anything positive or negative, take it, implement it in your next work. So it's very important. Don't shun criticism ever.
Thank you.
But what about the kind of criticism, or not even criticism, it's essentially trolling. And it's the reverse of nepotism that you get. Like there's a whole lot of people just troll you just because you're Amitabh Bachchan's son, and they just keep saying that, and they keep saying things like you're unemployed. I'm like, what does it say about someone who does this all day? Is troll you. How do you take that? Was it a new thing when you just firstly saw it on social media, like such a world exists?
No. You did enough of that to me, don't worry.
Huh?
You did enough of that.
What rubbish? What rubbish?
You prepared me for social media, Mayank. No, I don't pay much attention to it. See, like I said, always figure out how genuine is what somebody's saying is.
Sure.
You know, I mean, if you go and you see somebody on Twitter who's said something nasty to you and they've what is it called? Profile is one of those undas. Then, I mean, come on. Buddy, put your face and then let's talk, you know. And then you go down their timeline and all they're doing is just abusing several other celebrities.
Right.
Then you know that's not a genuine person. I actually enjoy it when people have something to debate about. I enjoy engaging with them. That's why I got onto social medias. You can engage with people. You can talk to people. If you want to have a sophisticated conversation or exchange, even if it's heated, that's fine. But let's discuss stuff, you know. I'm okay with that. But the minute if I realize that you're not being genuine about it, then it's okay. It's fine.
Like apparently you said somewhere that you came out of the film, I forget the name, maybe it was Shararat, and someone actually slapped you in Gaiety Galaxy.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
What happened? That's like crazy.
Disgruntled customer, I guess. Yeah, it was, yeah.
It did.
It was a tough time, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I would like to understand the tweet. It was a very good tweet. It's good to lose to a talented father. You wrote about India-Pakistan match day before. It went you were trying to, you tweeted.
I tweeted what?
About India-Pakistan match.
No, I never tweeted about India-Pakistan match.
Oh,
You know, I think you also get confused with your parody account, which is just as popular.
Oh yeah, I have a parody account. There's a rather funny person, man or woman, I don't know, but they run a parody. Ah, okay, yeah. They tweet, yeah, that wasn't me.
Hi, Abhishek.
Hi.
You had acted as Major Vikram Batra, Paramveer Chakra in LOC.
Ji.
I just want to know the kind of research you had put in to play that role. Because I think you played very well.
He's Major Shah, by the way. He's an ex-major.
So I had met Vishal, you know, Captain Batra's brother, twin brother.
That's right.
In Chandigarh. And I'd got whatever literature JP Saab had provided me with. And then obviously Josa, which was Colonel Y.K. Joshi, who was his commanding officer, I'd met him. So we had a sense of, you know, how Captain Batra was, the bon vivant that he was, and just this wonderful, wonderful soldier. Obviously, I saw the interview that Barkha had done with him.
Ye dil mange mo.
Yeah, and whatever was available to us at that point, there wasn't that much. But that is the kind of stuff that we did. But I think speaking to Vishal and then meeting Joser was also stuff that helped me a lot, because you got certain insights into Vikram Batra and the kind of person he was.
Right, because you were very convincing in
Thank
that.
you, thank
and
you.
I've rarely seen any actors who have played an army officer's part convincingly, including your other co-actors in the film, sorry to say. But I think you were very convincing.
Thank you, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
You know, that was one film that broke my heart.
What's that?
LOC. You know, I remember one of the screenings of LOC, we had come out, and one of the parents of one of the Jawans we had portrayed in the film came and they had tears in their eyes. And the father of the martyred Jawan was also a colonel in the army. And he said, he came up to JP Saab and he said, you know, thank you, Mr. Datta, because although I lost my son 5 years ago, the last 3 hours I felt he was with me. That hits you, you know, and you see what it means. Until date, I mean, here you have it. You know, we're talking about a film called LOC, came out 2002.
Right.
You know, that's 16 years ago. And I've had so many people that are from the armed forces that come out and still talk about that. That's what it meant to them. And then, you know, I remember that we didn't receive very favorable reviews for the film, and the film didn't end up doing the kind of business we hoped for it to do. It was crushing because, you know what it meant to the families of the people that the film was based on. You know, so there's certain times when films like this, when they don't do well, it really crushes you, because you want that film to do well because of who the film is made for.
Right.
You know?
Or about.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I mean, these are the sacrifice that they have made for us, and the kind of work that they do it's insane. I remember shooting LOC. We shot it predominantly in Leh, Ladakh. And it was very demanding, you know, just to be running around there, doing action at 12,000 feet is crazy. These guys were fighting a war at 19 to 21,000 feet. I mean, can you just imagine what our Jawans have done for us? I mean, it's crazy. And, you know, that was the emotion with which we made that film. So we just felt that the barometer was judged, which is fine, because I understand it is, you know, at the end of the day, it's a movie. But that film really, I remember when it didn't work, it was very upsetting. Very, very upsetting.
Is that another example when you knew that it might work and it didn't?
I think somewhere the practicality of, you know, LOC is, I think, possibly the longest film I've ever been up. I think it was 4.5 hours long.
Right.
But everybody, I mean, I think the reason I did the film was different. So it didn't bother me what it was going to do.
You weren't being objective about it.
No, I was very emotional about that film, yeah.
Orhan, you are quite high that you have been born in a family where you just got the chance to meet the biggest directors of the industry. So it says, it proves that you are a born star. But afterwards, when you just started your career with the movie Refugee, there have been a lot of ups and downs in your career. But you managed to just sail up, and now you are an actor who can be molded in a director's ideas. So is there any character you still desire to play, which has been your favorite likes?
Well, to start with, just to set the record straight, just because I was born into the family that I was born into and I had the privilege of the life that I've had, that doesn't make me a star. You have to work hard to become a star. It's very difficult to be a star. So that, I mean, just because I'm born somewhere doesn't make me a star. Set that straight. Secondly, is there a role that I haven't done that I'd like to do? I'm not sure, because, you know, that kind of changes almost on a weekly basis. I think it's very difficult for an actor to say, oh, this is my dream role. You know, and I remember Shah Rukh had taught me before I became an actor. I was sitting with him one day, we were all friends, and I had asked him this, which is your dream role? He said, your dream role should be the one that you're doing right now. Because if that isn't the most important thing to you, then you're not giving it your best. You've already prioritized something else. So your dream role should be what you're working on currently. Does that answer your question? Still standing there. Yeah, it's okay? Okay.
सर आपकी गुरु मूवी बहुत ही ज़बरदस्त है.
धन्यवाद.
बहुत ही बढ़िया मूवी है.
Thank you.
इसके अलावा आप जो फिल्म साइन करते तो स्क्रिप्ट क्या देख के करते हैं आप साइन? किस तरह की स्क्रिप्ट साइन करते हैं आप?
जी, अगर वो स्क्रिप्ट आपको छू जाए और आपको लगे कि आपके जो दर्शक हैं वो फिल्म देखना चाहेंगे, फिर मैं वो फिल्म चुन लेता हूँ.
जी जी, थैंक यू.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Let him say
When will you do Rajkumar Irani film?
हाँ, माने कि मैं बोल दूं और वो लोग कर लेंगे ना. हाँ.
नहीं.
मैं have already worked with Rajkumar Hirani. I actually did a small part in Lage Raho Munna Bhai at the end. I'd love to work with Raju. I think he's wonderful.
I am an editor.
You're his editor?
Yeah.
हाँ, तो आप जरा सिफारिश कर दीजिए भैया उनको. बता दीजिए उन्हें.
One day.
हाँ, one day. Good. Thanks. यहाँ भी. हाँ, बताएंगे. Yes.
So you have been a sports entrepreneur for a couple of years now, and you're also an actor. So it takes two completely different skill sets to work on these both. So how are you looking to manage those skill sets side by side?
Where there's a will, there's a way. If you're passionate about something, you love doing something, you'll find a way to do it. Yes, they're completely different skill sets. You need very good help, you need very good management, you need very good people who are going to, you know, aid you in scheduling your time. I thankfully have wonderful managers who manage to, you know, allocate the needed time for whatever I do. So far, I'm managing to juggle both the worlds. I have no complaints because I enjoy doing it. But I think it's to be able to get the right people for the right job.
हाँ, उसमें आपने स्पोर्ट्स पे बहुत ज़्यादा ध्यान दिया है. तो अगर उस पे कुछ बताना चाहें, कैसे वो पूरा मटेरियलाइज किया, कब आइडिया है कि उस पे काम करना चाहिए? कबड्डी टीम, फुटबॉल.
So you're mumbling, I can't hear you. Sorry.
मैं ये पूछना चाह रहा हूँ कि जैसे आपकी फुटबॉल टीम है, कबड्डी टीम है, आपने 2 साल का ब्रेक लेकर के उस पर बहुत सारा काम किया मुझे लगता है. तो वो कब आइडिया है कि मुझे फिल्म से हट करके इन पर भी काम करना चाहिए?
नहीं, मैं फुटबॉल और कबड्डी पे इससे पहले भी काम कर रहा था. 2014 में मैंने कबड्डी और फुटबॉल की शुरुआत की थी. So I was acting and doing that at the same time. जब मैंने ये तय किया कि मुझे ये 2 साल काम नहीं करना है फिल्मों में, I was very clear that वो 2 साल मैं बिताऊंगा अपने sports enterprises में to make sure that as businesses they can run by themselves. तो ये 2 साल में सिर्फ घर पे नहीं बैठा रहा. I was working round the clock on my sports, on my other family businesses that I run. But this was something I had already got when I was acting before as well.
Do you have a good business acumen? Most creative people aren't inclined towards business usually.
You know, I think we kind of complicate business too much. At the end of the day, you have to just remember supply, demand, and you're fine. You know, keep it simple. For me, that's been my mantra for business. Keep it as simple as possible. If there's a product, what is the demand for it, and then supply accordingly. It's as simple as that.
What's the profit, what's the loss? That's
Absolutely. Just keep it simple.
Right.
She said you're a very good actor. She enjoyed it. She enjoyed it very much. She'd been traveling, so she couldn't get to see it before release. She saw it after release. So she liked it very much, thankfully, yeah. The family has reacted positively. So that's good. Yes, he loved it, yeah.
Everyone has responded to Man Marzia very, very positively, as we're responding to Abhishek Bachchan. Thank you so much,
My
Abhishek,
pleasure. Thank
for doing
you,
this. Thank you so much.
I'd like to invite on stage Mr. Vinod Srivastava to please present Abhishek Bachchan with a memento, a token of our appreciation. Thank you for taking the time out and talking to us. Ladies and gentlemen, we will all put our hands together for Abhishek Bachchan! And thank you, Mayank, for such a wonderful, interesting conversation. And Abhishek, a parting shot there. So you spoke about, in good humor, about how Refugee was seen or not. I saw it twice. And I still remember your introductory scene with the clothes flapping and your eyes coming. You're a very special actor, very, very special. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you.